Hello, everybody. Welcome to Late Night Football. Welcome to our Sunday show. And it's kind of not really a Premier League preview show and such, but it is a bit of a Liverpool preview show because the one team that I think that every preseason or every summer they kind of fly under the radar a little bit, or they come up on the radar because the fans are not very happy with the signings that are being made and all that, so they kind of fly. And then somehow the season starts, and you just realize, well, where was this team? And why haven't we spoken more about this team? So I think that's where Liverpool always seem to be for me. I think every season I've learned the hard way that you can never really count Liverpool out. Like any season, you cannot count Liverpool out. They will surprise you, sometimes in good ways, sometimes bad ways, but they will surprise you. And they can come up with results even when they're not playing well, even when they're having troubles. They will come up with the results when they need to. So for me, I've learned it the hard way, and I've realized not to make that mistake of underestimating Liverpool. But I think this season, I think a lot of, maybe at the start there were a few clubs or a few club fans who were probably taking shots at Liverpool for not spending much. But I think over the course of preseason, I think a lot of teams are now, and players and clubs and fans, they're starting to take notice of Liverpool, and that is what we're going to talk about today. So get in the comments, share your thoughts of everything about Liverpool, about everything that we're talking about. Share your comments. Always love to hear from you, of course. Do remember to subscribe to our channel if you're watching this for the first time. But really appreciate your support. But let's talk about Liverpool right in. And I think they have been one of the best teams of preseason. I think Manchester City have been good. But Liverpool have been very, very good as well. I watched them in the game against Manchester United, of course, where they won 3-0. They've beaten Sevilla as well, 4-0. They had another team that played same day today against Las Palmas. They got a draw, and that's kind of understandable because it was not the first team entirely. It was probably the BC team that was playing there. So what they're showing though is that they've got squad depth. They've got massive squad depth, but more importantly, the way that they're playing, the wins that they're getting are absolutely crucial. I always feel, and I've always said this about Liverpool, is with Manchester City is like death by 1,000 cuts because they pass you to death. So sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. With Liverpool, what is quite obvious is that they're like a howitzer or a bazooka. They just go bang, 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 and they'll just cut you up within minutes and within seconds, within minutes, and then you're done. So it's like that. I think Liverpool have retained that, even with Klopp leaving. And many people might have thought that was a blow. I think it was time for Klopp to maybe move on. He'd probably done everything that he could have done with Liverpool. I don't think there was any way he was going to get past Pep. But now they brought in Slot, and I think he's very much in the mold of what Klopp does as well. So it's not like a major transition or major change of what's happening. So him coming in, I think it was a good move. And from what I've seen, he seems very much like Klopp as well. Like I think he'll bring his own stamp to it. I think he will have his own way of doing things, and he'll probably be a little bit more. It probably take Liverpool up a level above where Klopp was in terms of pressing, in terms of intensity. But in the main, in terms of the style that he plays, I think it's very similar to what Klopp was doing before. So I don't see too many major systems change, and that is a good thing for Liverpool. That is a good thing for Liverpool. That is a good thing for Liverpool fans, because it means that you don't really need as much time to get up to speed of things. You don't need to worry about, well, there's going to be a transition period and all of that. And that is how good clubs operate. At the end of the day, that's how good clubs operate. When you sign a manager who really who's done really well, then you bring another manager who can carry that work and take it forward, rather than trying to change the system, the style, or whatever, because it has worked. As much as Liverpool may not have won the big trophies as often, they've won one Premier League, one Champions League. They've all, I think Klopp has underachieved. At the end of this, I think you have to say Klopp underachieved. But that being said, they still have been one of the best teams in the league. Despite all of that, I think they've really, it has still been a successful period. They've won a few FA Cups, they've won League Cups. So done the other stuff. It's just that the big trophies have eluded them largely because of Manchester City. But nonetheless, I think, that style of play didn't need to go away. It wasn't a bad style of play. It wasn't an issue with the style, with the way that they were playing, or the players. Just they weren't able to get over the line. Maybe Slot can take them over the line. But I've been very impressed with how they played in preseason. I've been very impressed with the results. The attacking football has been really, really good. And for me, I see Liverpool ahead of Arsenal this season. I think Liverpool will finish first or second this season. I think they will finish second. And the reason why I think they'll finish second is I still feel the depth of squad is still not there yet to compete with Manchester City. I think a lot of people think about Manchester City and then think, oh, they've got these great players, great 11. But Manchester City don't win leagues because they have a great 11. They win leagues because they have a great 18, 19 players. They have really good 18, 19 players. And that is what you need if you want to compete with Manchester City. And I don't think Liverpool quite have that yet. I think they have a very good 11. They probably have very good 16, 17 players, which is more than what I can say for Arsenal at this point. By the way, Arsenal, I think, will still be close. But I think Arsenal is still a bit off of Manchester City because they've still not signed that one striker that they needed to sign. I think more than a defender, more than Calafiori, and Calafiori is a great player and will do very well at Arsenal, I'm sure. But you needed a striker. Arsenal needed a striker. They haven't signed that. I don't think Havertz is a job. Even today, they won the game against Lyon 2-0. Guess who are the two goal scorers? It's Saliba and Gabriel, the two defenders. They're scoring goals. You can't rely on them to score goals to bail you out and win a league title. You need a striker who's going to get you 20, 25 goals a season. Arsenal don't have that, and that is a problem. Liverpool have that. Liverpool have that in Jota. The question is whether Jota can stay fit for a whole campaign. Now, that is a problem for Jota. He doesn't often stay fit for a whole campaign. If he can stay fit for a whole campaign, then I think they've got a very good chance of winning the league. They have got good support in David Nunez, in Cody Gakpo. Luis Diaz can pitch in with a few goals as well. So they have got goals. Salah, of course, will score a lot of goals as well. So they've got goals in that side. It's a matter of can those goal scorers remain fit and for long enough periods where they can keep winning games while Manchester City are keeping on winning games and then maybe clinch the title. For me, and I said this last season as well, and it was right, for any team to win the league title, going into the last 15 games of the season, or maybe I'll say last 15 games of the season, you need to have at least a 12-15 point gap over Manchester City. That is the minimum that you need. If you have a 15-point gap over Manchester City going into the last 15 games of the season, maybe 12 if you've already played Manchester City before that. I'm not sure how the fixture schedule will work, but nonetheless, you need to have at least a 15-point gap going to the last 15 games of the season. Then you have a shot of winning it, because then that allows you to lose maybe 5 games, and you hope that you'll win the remaining 10, have a good goal difference, and you'll win the league title. But that's the kind of gap you need, because City are relentless. In that second part of the season, City are relentless. You can't expect them to drop too many points unless they're really having a bad season, which they won't. They will win those last 10-15 games. They'll win after the last 15. In those 45 points, City will easily pick up at least 40-42 points minimum. That's what they'll pick up. So you need to have that 15-point cushion so that you can kind of then you only need if you say City need 40 points, for example. If you say 40 points, then you're talking the gap is only, you need about 26 points to win the league title if you have a 15-point gap, and that is manageable in 15 games towards the end of the season when players start getting tired, the legs start getting weary. That's where you need that. And I think because most teams don't get that. Most teams have 5-6 points maybe, and that's not enough against Manchester City, against a side that has very fresh players going into the second half of the season. For whatever reason, they're very good depth, so they're very fresh players. They find ways to win. And do I see Liverpool being able to make that big gap? Not at the moment. I don't. I can see them having a lead towards the end of the season. I can see them towards the last 15 games of the season. I could see them top of the table going into the last 15 games of the season. They might even have a 6 to 8 point gap. I'm not sure. And that's iffy. I'm not sure that's enough or not. It might be enough for Liverpool, because Liverpool, again, are another team that are quite relentless towards the end of the season. But I still feel maybe City will edge it out over Liverpool. This is, of course, fitness and all. You never know. Maybe City might lose 5 players in the first 5 games of the season, and then they'll just fall behind. Could happen. Could happen with Liverpool as well. They could lose 4 or 5 players in the first 5 games of the season, and they fall behind as well. So you never know. But based on where we are right now, I just feel City have a slight edge over Liverpool. That could change in Liverpool, maybe add 1 or 2 more players. They are, of course, on the verge of signing Zubimendi. I think that is a deal that will be done fairly quickly. And we'll talk about transfers in a moment. But if they can maybe add 1 or 2 more players in a couple of other positions, then I think maybe they will challenge. They might win the league title. But at the moment, the way that the squads are right now, I see City slightly having an edge, but I still see Liverpool finishing second ahead of Arsenal. I can't see them finishing lower than second. Liverpool, that is. I can't see them because they look very good. And of course, it's only preseason. People will say that it's only preseason. It's only a few games. But no, and yes, preseason results don't matter. But the performances, they do matter. Performances do matter, and you do have to look at it. And remember, these are teams that are playing with their second teams, the third teams. These are not the best teams that are playing. So if you play that well with your second team, imagine how much better you'll be with your first team. So it is important to look at performances, because those do matter. Results maybe not so much, but I've been very impressed with Liverpool, and I think they will do really, really well this season. I do believe that. They might even win a trophy. I don't know which one, but I think they might win a trophy as well. Maybe not the Premier League, but they could win the FA Cup or the League Cup. I think Champions League might be a little bit of a step too far. As long as they avoid Real Madrid for until the final, maybe. And as long as they avoid Real Madrid, I think Liverpool will have a good chance of doing something. But they look very good. They look really, really good. And then of course the question comes about transfers. And I know FSG out has been trending quite a few times over the summer. There's lots of fans who are dissatisfied with the fact that players have not been signed. There's not been a lot of movement on transfers and all of that. And I get that. I get the frustration, particularly when you look across to see, Chelsea have signed a lot of players, Manchester United have signed a lot of players. But I don't think Liverpool need to compare themselves with those teams. I don't think they need to worry about that. You have to look at Manchester City. How many players have they signed? I think they've only signed Savinho. At the moment, they've only signed Savinho as their first team. And maybe they might have signed someone else, but I think they've only signed Savinho. They haven't signed a lot of players. Arsenal haven't signed a lot of players. They've only signed Calafiori so far. Raya, that deal was made permanent, but he was already there last season. They do need one more player, but I think they only need one more striker. I don't think I don't think Arsenal need too much either. They also need one striker, and that is the key difference. Liverpool need to look at what the big teams are doing. The problem with the likes of Chelsea are just signing players willy nilly. They're just going out and signing whoever is a name that they can see. They think that they're going to sign someone. They think, okay, fine, we'll sign him for 60, maybe in 2 years it'll be worth 100 million pounds. So let's sign him. Chelsea are operating on a completely different model. They're not operating on a trophy win model at this moment, and they're operating on a player resale model. That is their model right now, is buying players for resale value. They're not buying players for a team, because no team in the world, and Chelsea might do very well this season. I have a very soft spot for Chelsea, and I hope Chelsea do really well. And I do see them as top 4 contenders. Let me be very clear. I see Chelsea as top 4 contenders. They might even finish top 4, actually, because when we look down, who's going to finish 4th? It's not going to be Aston Villa. I think are going to fall away. I think Newcastle, I don't think they will get there either. And Tottenham, you just don't know which one's going to turn up. I don't know if they're going to do that well either. They haven't been signing the right profile of players either. So, and Manchester United, they're not going to get top 4. I don't see Manchester United finishing 4th. They might finish top 6, maybe Manchester United, but they're not finishing 4th. That's for sure. They don't have the squad. So Chelsea, I think, are top 4 contenders. The problem is that the squad that they're signing, 44 players in a squad, you don't need that big a squad. It just creates issues for you as a team, as a manager. It creates issues when you have so many players. 44 players is unnecessary and unbelievable that you have that. And that is the part that might, if anything, will cost Chelsea. It's the fact that they have so many players, and that, it's got to manage that. Morale will be down. All of those things will be a factor. And so so Liverpool fans don't need to compare themselves with Chelsea. Yes, they've signed some good players, but they've also signed some total, just resale value players. I mean, Pedro Neto for 65 million pounds. I just don't see that. Yes, he's a very good player, but he's so injury prone. What is he going to do at Chelsea, right? So he might have a very good season now that I said it, but he's very, very injury prone. So you don't know what you're going to get out of him. But Chelsea are just signing a lot of players for no reason. Manchester United have signed quite a few players as well. But look where Manchester United's squad is. It was the 8th best team in the league last season because they had 0 squad depth. They're now trying to build up squad depth. But the players that they've signed, you look at Xerxes, he wasn't even good enough. Apparently, Xerxes is not even good enough to start ahead of Jadon Sancho. Sancho is an absolute liability for me. Euro's already injured and out for 3 months. Don't know when we're going to see him back and whether he'll be back to his best anytime this season. And then you've got De Ligt and Mazraoui, both of whom are good players, but not necessarily world-class players. They're not world-class players. Some fans might say that, but they're not world-class players. So Manchester United are again operating on a very different level and a different model. So these clubs are signing a lot of players because they have to kind of make that gap up to 4th place to 1st place. It's a long gap to make up, and so they have to sign a lot of players. Liverpool don't need to do that. Liverpool's squad depth is brilliant. When you look at the front line, you've got Jota, you've got Nunez, you've got Salah, you've got Luis Diaz, you've also got Endo, Gakpo can play in the front line as well. They've got a lot of depth. And so when you already have a lot of depth, you don't need to worry about signing players. You don't need to. I'm excited to see Doak as well this season. I thought he was very good in a couple of preseason games that I saw him play. I think he'll be a fantastic player. So you don't need to always, go out and spend 50, 60 million pounds on players. You don't need to do that. Yes, maybe FSG are doing it because they want to save money. But I also think the reality is that Liverpool already have so much depth. They don't need to worry so much about signing a lot of players. Yes, injuries will be a problem. It might be a concern, but you can't always legislate, just because of injuries. I mean, I would say United probably need 3 left backs, right? Because Shaw and Malacia are both gone. But you can't build your season by saying, well, let's have 3 left backs and 3 right backs and 6 defenders because get injured. Then you're looking at how many players. You've got 12 players already for 4 positions. And then if nobody gets injured, which could happen as well, where you have a season where nobody's injured, or the injuries are very short, duration. You don't need that depth, and then you're just stuck with players. So there is a balancing act for managers, and I think where Liverpool have excelled is that they've got multifaceted players. They've got players who can play 2 or 3 different positions. So even though one player is injured, it doesn't mean that you need 2 specialist left wingers and 2 specialist right wingers and 2 specialist strikers. They've got players who can play lots of different positions. So you can get away with having lesser players because you've got that depth, in terms of versatility. And so that's why I think Liverpool will excel. And I think I'm not saying Liverpool don't need to sign players. I think they do need Zubimendi, and maybe they need one more player. Maybe well, they do, because if they want to win the league, I think they need one more player. But if they don't get it, it's not the end of the world, because they're already starting at such a higher point compared to everybody else behind them, and probably even one of them in front of them. They're level with Arsenal at this point. I think there's not much between them and Arsenal. It really depends on who can have the fitter squad and who will have the better sort of, clear moments. But I think they're pretty much level with Arsenal. They're not that far off of Arsenal. And they're much ahead of anybody else. Spurs, Villa, Manchester United, Chelsea. They're not on Liverpool's level. They're much, 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 much beyond that. So it's not the disaster. It's not the end of the world. Yes, I know fans will want to win the league title, and I hope they can compete for the league title. But at the same time, City are just City are cities. You financially, no club in the Premier League, no club in the Premier League can compete with Manchester City financially. Not when Manchester City can sell their second striker for 90 million, 80 whatever, 80 million pounds, 90 million pounds. They can sell them for that amount of money. Nobody who's you're not getting that for anybody, are you? So they're operating on a whole different level. Manchester City, you're not going to beat them financially. You're just going to have to hope and pray that a few of their players get injured. They lose 5-6 players at the same time, and 5-6 key players, by the way. Like, you've got maybe Edison, Rodri, Ruben Diaz, Akanji, maybe I don't, De Bruyne, whatever. But you need like 5 or 6 players to be injured. Maybe like all four, the entire first choice back four, or like they basically you need like really, really, heavy luck, and that is not something you hope for or you wish for. So it is kind of unrealistic to aim for that. So Liverpool, I think, from their expectations point of view, they've got to start. They are in a good position. They could be in a better position, but they are in a great position at this point in time, and I do see them doing really, really well this season. Whether that means winning a league title, I'm not so sure. I think they'll finish second. I think they will win a trophy, but they're not in a position where they need to be desperate for signings. And I think that FSG out movement for me is a little bit of overreaction, but I get it because you have got a team that you're seeing all these other clubs making signings, and you're thinking, well, why are we not making signings? I understand that, I get it, but at the same time, you have to also see the context of why those other clubs are signing the players that they're signing, and why they're spending the money that they're spending. And then you compare that. I think you realize that Liverpool are still better off, and preseason has shown that. Preseason has shown that Liverpool, well, no matter what all the other clubs do, Liverpool are still miles better than a majority of the Premier League. Only one club is ahead of them, and one club is kind of level with them. At the end of the day, when you look at last season, Liverpool didn't lose the league title just because of bad results or bad play. There were some injuries that were an issue, and they also lost a few points because of referee decisions. And I don't like to. I'm not a Liverpool fan. I'm a United fan, so I have no problem with Liverpool getting the shot in the stick with referees. But the fact is, I am sympathetic as well to the fact that Liverpool could have won the league title if they hadn't had those atrocious decisions that went against them. Like this Spurs game comes to mind right away. 3 points there. What difference that could have made? They ended up losing that game with the last kick of the game, but they really should have won that game. And the only reason they didn't win is because the referees screwed them over multiple times in one game, and there were other games as well where they were screwed over. So those are the margins. Those are the margins we talked about. There are some things that are out of your control. Injuries are out of your control. Referee decisions are out of your control. Sometimes 1 or 2 referee decisions in 2 games, and suddenly you've lost 6 points where you could have, you end up with 0 where you could have 6 points, and it just makes a big difference, right? So things like that happen, and that's, I think, those are the ones that you cannot control. So Liverpool, I think, and that was a big reason why Liverpool finished third, is because of those refereeing decisions, because of those injuries, and those are not things that you can really control. Yes, you can build squad depth, but how much squad depth can you really have? You can't legislate you can legislate to a certain extent for injuries, like you might know, okay, Jota does get injured a lot, so we need a backup striker. Yes, but if Jota's backup also gets injured, how do you legislate for that? How do you say, okay, well, let's have 3 strikers next season? But you can't squads have to be built. Chelsea probably could do it. They could have 5 strikers if they wanted, but Liverpool don't operate on that model, and that's just the way it is, and it has worked for them. So just a little bit more faith, I think, probably is needed from the fans. But I'm not a Liverpool fan, so I don't know the inner workings entirely of the club. So I do get where Liverpool fans also come from, and where they think maybe they need to put more pressure on the ownership to buy more players. But Liverpool are in a very great position. I think preseason, as I said, has shown that they are in a good position, and I'd see them finishing second at least this season. I can't see them finishing lower than that at this moment in time, but we'll know more when the season progresses. Anyway, share your thoughts on that. I think, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me, put that in the comment section. I do expect Zubimendi to be announced soon. That will happen. That's one signing that will happen. Hopefully, there will be one more player coming in. I'm not sure what they need. I'm just trying to think what is a position that they might want to strengthen, because they have some very good players, coming from the youth as well. I mean, Curtis Jones looked good last season. He deserves a run. Doak was someone who's done very well in preseason. He deserves a run. Quansah was really good last season. He deserves a run. So where do you really want to sign a player? Maybe another striker to try and take some of the load off Jota. Nunez is a bit hit and miss. Maybe they might want another forward. Maybe not a striker, out and a striker, but maybe a forward who can score goals, but also maybe play on the wings or something. Maybe that is something they could look at. But other than that, I think they look stacked and they look really good. And like I said, I think they'll finish second next season. But anyway, share your thoughts on that. Share your thoughts. What transfers maybe they need to make. Anything that you agree with, anything that you disagree with, put that in the comments. Always love to hear from you. Thank you so much for watching. Do subscribe to our channel. We're getting very close to 450 subscribers, so please help us hit that mark. Take care. Have a good rest of your Sunday, and we'll see you again soon. Bye bye.